So Ty is someone who's been part of our journey, Arthur, Ruben's, and my journey for the last 4 years.
So like it's been like
before Career Karma existed, before breaking into startups existed. I remember I met Ty like on a hike somewhere like 4 years ago, and Ty was just talking about this big vision, his dreams. I was speaking about my dreams, and we're like, hey, we're gonna stick together and we're gonna do it. And I think the common thing that unites us is we all have dreams, we all have drive, but Ty is also someone who doesn't take no for an answer. And on this journey, you're going to get knocked down, you're going to get rejected. That happened to me, that happened to Ty, that happened to Arthur, and it happened to Ruben. And it's going to happen to you too. So I really wanted to give you a chance to speak to Ty and what he does when he gets rejected and how does he grow. And today, Ty, he runs operations for Bird, which is a scooter company. They just raised a couple of $100 million because they want to bring transportation, a new form of transportation, to millions of people around the world, right? You guys are international. And we're going to talk more about what he does for a living, but I'd love to just welcome Ty and say, welcome, man.
Thank you. Thank you. It's really, really awesome to be here. You know, I've known these guys for a really long time before almost all of this amazingness that have happened to you guys. I'm incredibly excited to be here, and I'm thrilled to kind of share my story and just kind of chat about kind of what what it's like to one, get rejected, but two, what it's like to kind of persevere and get through. And then also to chat a little bit about like growth mindset, and if we want to talk about Bird, we can talk all day about that too. But I want this to be about you guys and about you guys' journey and all the rest.
Yeah, and we're gonna open it up for questions in 10 minutes. But Ty, I'd love for you to just tell people like, where were you 5 years ago before you even came out to San Francisco? What were you doing?
Know, years feel like decades for me. You have a growth mindset. So I don't know if Timur has actually told you guys about how I think I've kind of, the whole 10X thing is something that I think it was a funny night, but a 10X mindset is what I really call it. There's a growth mindset, which is, someone who wants to grow, someone who is always usually asking questions. They say this a lot, like a company at Facebook has actually kind of coined that word, like a growth mindset, because Facebook grew so quickly and fast, and it's a platform that's 2 billion people. So like a growth mindset, someone who always wants to grow. I think for me, I have what I call a 10X mindset, and I see someone or I see something or I see a product or service. Even Bird actually was this great example of something I saw, and I saw how that could be 10X. So going back to me, just kind of like what?
Like what were you up to before you?
5 years, yeah. So 5 years ago, I would say that like I was, so this is 2019. I want to make it relatable. So May 2019, so that would be May 2014. Wow. I was living in Phoenix, Arizona. I was not in the Bay Area. I was living in Phoenix, Arizona. I was working in residential real estate, but not like selling homes, residential, commercial real estate, a blend of the two. I was working in apartments, multifamily is what we call it. I was like an assistant business manager. So I was like the guy, not in the front of the office, but like in the backside of the office, managing the assets, reading TechCrunch every single day on my lunch break. I was not this person that you see today. And all I knew was that I wanted to start a company. I knew that Silicon Valley and San Francisco was like, I played college basketball. So like, I knew that like Silicon Valley and San Francisco was the NBA of like, building companies. It was like, okay, Mark Zuckerberg's there. Like, he's like this star, right? It's like, okay, cool. I think the Social Network had just came out like a couple years. Well, at least it was popular. 2014, I was just dreaming. I was really aggressive. I think at that particular time, I had just finished taking my first visit to San Francisco. And I remember I was trying to start a company. Actually, I was starting a company, and I visited that April and 5 years ago. And everyone that I met with, were entrepreneurs that looked like me. So people of color that have raised money from some really well-known VCs and all the rest. They all looked at me and they were like, Ty, you're like really bright. It's a good idea, but you need to live here. And I was like, well, how do I need to live here? You know, I want to build it in like, and it was like, no, like, it's like, one, you need to live here. And it was like, okay, like, do you believe that you're the best in the world at what you do? And I was like, there's no way I'm the best in the world at what I do. And that was when the I would say it started. And then the next question that the person asked me, he was just like, who's actually still my mentor to this day. He was like, that's completely fine if you don't believe you're the best in the world. And he's like, you actually shouldn't at this particular stage in your life. Like you have not, going back to that NBA quote, you haven't played in the NBA. You haven't been in Silicon Valley for years, you know, to even know what the best is. So for you to, you know, it's like, it's good that you were honest. So for me, he was like, you know, like, that's great. What you should do is you should join the most ambitious thing that you could possibly join. And you will find out how good you really are.
Yeah, and something that you skipped on was you didn't know anyone in San Francisco before you came out, right? No. So when you planned your first visit out here, like, what did you already start doing to get in touch with people? Yeah, so Twitter's the new LinkedIn. If you don't use Twitter, Twitter is the new LinkedIn. Just LinkedIn is great. It's awesome. LinkedIn is great for like me now. LinkedIn was horrible for me 5 years ago. Yeah, when you don't have experience, like when you look at a resume and like you're not in tech, LinkedIn is not going to add a lot of value to you. That's why it blows our mind, because LinkedIn doesn't say how someone acquired the skills. It just says that this is the skills, but a parent who became a developer and someone who went to a 4-year college, it doesn't paint the picture of how someone got there. Exactly. And so what did you do with Twitter? No, honestly, like, so like I've been so I would say that like, even though I didn't really notice that like, you know, it's kind of peeling back the onion a bit. I would say I was the guy who was like, you know, I would play video games a lot, and I was technical in the sense of like, I was interested in tech. I was interested in video games. I was interested in like new things. Like I was on Twitter like early, like 2010. Like I was on Twitter very, very early. I was using Twitter on my BlackBerry. Like I remember that, right? You know, so I was a part of these things, but the dots didn't really connect until I started realizing that like there is a true tech community with it on Twitter. And once I realized that, I mean, it was off to the races. I just basically, you know, this is my belief. Like I have everything to gain. I had nothing to lose. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I wasn't shy about, you know, following someone's Twitter, follow all the people that I knew that were in tech. You know, I would watch, this was literally my thing. I would read TechCrunch. I would watch, back then it was called Bloomberg West, which is now called Bloomberg Technology. So it was Bloomberg West. It was like this technology show about like everything happening in tech in the Bay. I would watch that. That was before the podcast. That was before the podcast for sure. I would watch that. And then I would also, I would just like read books about like what things that were happening in the industry. And that's how I started to realize like, oh, like that's Fred Wilson. Like he invested into Twitter. Like I use Twitter. Like, oh, he's on Twitter. Follow his Twitter. And, you know, oh, Fred Wilson's talking to Brad Feld. Brad Feld is like, and that's how I started to get the vernacular of Silicon Valley and started to learn about these things. Oh, Mark Andreessen, like, oh, I read about this book about like, you know, Netscape or whatever, all these companies. It's like, oh, like that's actually the founder on Twitter. Oh, he has a venture capital firm called Andreessen Horowitz. Wow, he invested into Lyft. I didn't know that. Like these are all the things that started to help me. And this is all just like from my day-to-day back then when I was just working. Yeah, and these are like breadcrumbs that were leading you. Like, even though at that time, someone might not think like you're preparing for a job search. No. It was just like you were doing due diligence. Right. You were learning, researching. But I know you reached out to people on Twitter to get in touch with them. Yeah. Who did you reach out to? Like, what do you even say when you reach out to someone you never met before? I would say this. I'm pretty aggressive, but aggressive in the most polite way. And I always apologize if I'm a little too aggressive. But definitely at the time it was Tristan Walker. It was Nate Jones. It was Chris Lyons. It was there was the chief revenue officer of this brand new startup. It was like a smart lock company. It's called August Smart Lock. They actually just sold to a lock company for like hundreds of millions of dollars like 2 years ago. He's actually still a
friend. Like I literally told him, was like, hey, Nate, like love what you're building at August. Like if I'm ever like in SF, or I don't know what I said. Maybe I can find it and send it to you guys later on, but I can probably find it. It's like, I'm going to be in SF later on. Would love to catch it. Like, I don't know. I said something. And he was like, yeah, totally down. Like, that's how people are out here.
Yeah.
And, you know, I almost got a job at August because of that. Like,
yeah.
You know, so.
And I think just to unpack this a little bit, you want to find people that you have something in common with. This could be another veteran, right? If you reach out to another veteran, they know what it was like for them to be outside of tech, so they're way more likely to help you. If you're a parent and now you can follow hashtags too. So if you follow, let's say, Moms Who Code hashtag, and you find someone who puts that hashtag in their bio and they work at a tech company, and maybe they're not in your city, but you can still send them a message and be like, hey, I'm someone who's learning how to code now. Would love to know about what you do. Like, what do you do every day? Like, what does your day look like? And you'd be surprised how likely people are to respond to you. And it's a numbers game too. Like, not everyone, I bet, who you reached out to responded.
No, 100%. I would say no.
A good portion of them did. Right?
Yeah, 100%. I would say that, like, for you guys, like, it's even easier today. It's mind blowing that, like, people don't realize, like, I don't know. I take joy in this, but like, I like to look at, like, I don't like to like hit up CEOs because, like, I mean, it's nice and cool, but like, I like to find the like second or third or fourth guy that works on a really important thing at that said company and like hit them up. And the reason why is because the CEO probably takes, like, a great example is Bird, right? Like everyone's emailing Travis all day, right? Like, but like no one's hitting up the like director of like brand marketing at Bird, right? Probably they are, but like, because it's a consumer company, but like there's different.
Or like engineer, like a senior engineer.
Yeah, like a senior engineer at Bird. Like no one's hitting that guy up. I guarantee you. Like I guarantee you. Like if you really want to like get to know people, I promise you. Like just think about it that way. Like even people, I don't really get hit up that much. You know, like I would hit myself up, but like if I were trying to join, you know, or get to know someone in that space. But like it's pretty mind blowing that, like, you know, you could probably find at any like fast growing company or even like any big company, you know, a senior engineer, and they'll take 30 minutes of their day. If you're really humble and you're just saying, hey, like I'm going through this, like I can't tell you, you know, before I got the job at Berg, how many people actually like leaving Omni, like how many people actually wanted to like grab coffee with me, get to know me, meet me. To, you know, I truly feel now that like I kind of know almost everyone as a result of it.
Yeah. And in the intro, I mentioned that before you got your first job at Omni, you went through a job search process, right? So you picked yourself up, you and your girlfriend moved to San Francisco and you didn't have a job, right?
Yeah. So
can you talk about what it was like being outside your comfort zone, like being in San Francisco? You now told your family and your girlfriend that you're going to be in tech, but you didn't have a tech job.
Nope.
And I know when you're outside of tech, the job seems so far away.
Yes.
The more you start going to job interviews, the more it's easy to get discouraged. So what was your job search like? Yeah,
my job search was very hard. I don't think I finally got my real true job in tech until I got to Bird, to be honest. I mean, I even still have the underdog in me. I don't think it'll ever go away. But my kind of my process was, after literally 5 years ago to this day, once I realized that like I didn't believe, I might have felt that I was the best in the world. You want me to answer any of these questions, or you want to?
Let's just finish. Cool. We'll do AMAs in 10 minutes.
Cool. Yeah. So after 5 years ago, once I realized that like, wow, like I may not be the best. I don't know if I'm the best in the world, but what I do know is that in the interim, I can at least join the most ambitious thing possible to figure out if I'm the best in the world. And also grow and learn and get to know people and get to meet people and all the rest. So as a result of that, I started peeling back the onion, and I was like, well, in my particular case, I want to get there as soon as possible. So I kind of re-enrolled in school. So like, I'm like a perennial dropout. I've dropped out of school probably like 7 times. I've always been a guy that like wants to learn a thing, start a company, I'm like the entrepreneurial sales, distribution, expansion, operational kind of guy. And I've always wanted to, grow that way. So for me, once I realized that like, wow, like I can just go and join something super ambitious. Girlfriend at the time was in New York. I was living in Phoenix, working in real estate, as you guys I mentioned before. I said, how am I going to close this gap? So I said, you know what? The fastest, quickest way will be to get an internship. So I was like, I'm just going to apply ruthlessly, say I'm in school or whatever. And like, I'll use that card to get in and get into a company. And that company was Wells Fargo. I was working in like the tech department at a bank. You know, the connotation with you're working at a bank, you're not in tech yet. So I was, so I was, you know, I was a product manager for the summer, only the summer at Wells Fargo. I was hustling those 10 weeks. I met Ruben like the first week that I got here. I met him probably a month after I got here. I was being very aggressive. 10 weeks comes to an end. I don't have a job at all. And I live in San Francisco. And, you know, I ended up hustling my way into a role at Wells Fargo. But I still wasn't in tech yet. So, you know, consulting with these guys, I just was like, hey, like, this is what I want to do. I want to go join these types of companies. And it took probably from September to it honestly took 9 whole months, long months. It took about 10 months for me to get my job at Omni. I didn't join Omni until July. So about 10 months.
Yeah. So you were working in your Wells Fargo job, but you were hustling.
I was hustling, meeting people. I said, I think my goal was that like, if I'm going to bet any type of money on anyone, if I'm going to go in debt for anything, I'm going to go in debt for myself. Mm-hmm. And because I can bet the house on myself. Yeah. I'll meet anyone. I'll email anybody. And I mean, during this time, just to kind of help you guys during this time, like I met Jack Dorsey, CEO of Twitter. I met Adam Bain, the former CEO of Twitter. He took Twitter from $0 to $2 billion in revenue. Adam Bain offered me a job. I met Ben Horowitz. I met like prolific people in Silicon Valley. Like I met everybody, and it allowed me to get to these opportunities. These guys were ascending in their career at their respective companies at the time. They were thinking about doing a startup. I don't think you guys have done
that was even before breaking.
Yeah, it was before the podcast, all of that. So I was leaning on them for something, but
So there's a question from Elliot, but sure. I guess what do you think helped you get your first role? What was it like? What did you change, or what did you start doing differently to get into your first role?
Yeah, it's a great question, Elliot. I would say that like the interview, just going through the interview like one, getting these jobs are a lot more informal than you think. That's one. Like, remember, these are human beings giving out jobs. These are human beings. This isn't like, it isn't a computer. It's not, a program.
Yeah, some algorithm.
It's not an algorithm. Yeah. These are human beings. So human being, because it's sort of a subjective thing. It's not a very objective thing. It's not math. It's not like as simple as 2 + 2. It's more subjective. It's like, what color is that wall? Well, the wall's white. Timur sees blue. You know, who's right? Who knows, right? Yeah. Right? So having understood that, I knew that my way in wouldn't be to show someone a Harvard degree and I went to Stanford and I got my JD from Princeton or Yale. I wouldn't win that. I'm always going to lose. So I knew for me that relationships would be the thing. So for me, it happened to be, so I just doubled down on that and myself and meeting as many people as possible. Funny enough, there was a day I was actually with Ruben. This is the story. So I was with Ruben. I was coming back from, a class. I was back in school, guys. So I was back in school, coming from class. I picked Ruben up. It's like 7 p.m. and he's like, I got invited to this dinner. And I'm like, I don't want to go to another dinner. I'm tired. I want to go home. And Ruben's like, nah, like we should go to this dinner. And I'm like, okay. So we go to this dinner.
And Ruben is at dinner now. Ruben loves networking events. That's what he does.
And also too, mind you, like find someone when you get here. Trust me, there's someone of everyone, or even whatever city you choose, whether it's New York, DC, wherever you guys go, like staff. Find someone who who's like your counterpart, right? Ruben to me was like my counterpart. Timur was my counterpart in the gym, right? Like all these, like I found my counterparts, and in that moment, Ruben was like, we should go to this. And I really didn't want to go. My girlfriend had dinner at home. I wanted to go home. But anyway, I ended up going. And what happened was that I met Michael Seibel. Michael Seibel, I think, is he still the CEO?
Yeah, he's the CEO. He's also one of the first investors in Career Karma.
So Michael Seibel is one of the first investors in Career Karma. He's also the CEO of Y Combinator, which is a legendary accelerator out here in Silicon Valley. They funded Dropbox, to name a few, successful company. Career Karma next. Anyway, Airbnb. Anyway, I meet Michael, and he's completely chill. The dinner has Michael Seibel has his former CTO of Living Social. These are like heavy hitters, and I'm just like, damn, I'm in this room at this time, and I'm Ty Olatoye, who works at like Wells Fargo, you know, right? So I'm in this room, and I'm just being myself. The VP of Business Development at Omni, Ryan Delk, is actually in the room, and Eric Thornburg and Ryan Delk host this dinner. It's beautiful. I get to know everyone in the room because that's just who I am. End up meeting Ryan. He's like, I play basketball on the side. I'm like, well, I play basketball. We should again, finding your counterpart. I'm like, we should set up time to just play basketball, like to work out. He's like, yeah, let's do it. Get his number. And then I'm like, and he's like, what are you doing right now? What do you do? I'm like, oh, well, I'm looking at different companies right now. And he's like, okay. He's like, let's get some time to get lunch. We get lunch. He talks to me about a little bit about Omni. Mind you, I'm already an Omni user. So that's another thing that I would say is that, like, when you get here, try, if you believe in a product or a company or a vision or something, try it, use it. I used Omni 2 months in. I was storing stuff inside of the company. I was using the product or service myself. And I was like, hey, like, you work at Omni? Like, I know that company. I know that. Like, say hi to the CEO for me. And he really liked that. So anyway, long story short, got lunch with this gentleman. He was the VP of business. And he just said, dude, like, you have these experience with like real estate. We really want to like, we really feel like Omni's a play on real estate. Like, you should, come and help us like build the first steps of our marketplace. Like, what would you do? I went home, I sent them an assignment, like, and I don't know, like a month later, I had a job at Omni.
Yeah.
There was no interview. There was no like, I never submitted a resume. I just want you guys to know
that.
And
I think people will think that it's a lot of people, when you speak to them who have gotten a job because of a relationship, they always think they got lucky, right? Because the way, if you just look at that specific incident or that specific event, going to a dinner, meeting someone, and that translating into a job, it's easy to think that you got lucky. But I want to take a step back and also emphasize that Ty probably went to 100 dinners or 100 meetings that didn't turn into a job. And to all of you who are listening, keep reminding yourself that you only need one job. When you're trying to getting your first job in tech is the hardest, but you also only need one job. And when you're breaking into tech, don't underestimate the power of relationships. It's other human beings who will be deciding whether or not to hire you. And just ask yourself, what would you, if you were in their shoes, you should be asking that yourself every day. If you were in their shoes, what do you look for? Are you looking for someone who's hungry, someone who's willing to learn, someone who's willing to work and not stop until they solve the problem? Those are the things that companies look for, and that will make up for maybe not as much experience on paper, because they just believe in you and they know that you're going to turn every rock to get to the right answer. I think at this point, let's open it up for questions. I know there's people who are blowing up the chat. I love all the questions from our community. Feel free to unmute yourself and ask Ty questions or post it in the chat. Yeah, let's see. Go ahead.
Okay.
Sure.
Okay. So you said that, hi Ty. Thank you for doing this. So you said that you contacted the higher up developers, the senior developers in the company, or senior people in the company that weren't the president. So in that case, what were you saying? I mean, I understand like what your day look like. That's what you said. You mentioned that, but what do you talk about?
Yeah. So I'm happy to share, like, honestly, I will share a tweet. Like, if you want me, I will go through my Twitter and explicitly share this with all of you guys.
Can you just tweet it out and tag 21DCK Challenge?
Yeah, no problem. I'll definitely do that and just kind of repost this stuff for you guys so you guys can see what I said to people. But like a great example is like the August Smart Lock, which is actually like I thought was a cool company. It was like, okay, right, like think about locks. It's like locks suck, right? Like, you know, they were making a lock beautiful. Like it was on your phone. You can have that. You can let the UPS guy in. You can do all these cool things. And like the CEO's front and center. He's like, there's quotes from him. And I was like, well, like I don't really want to talk to the CEO. He's gonna ignore my email clearly. So let me find the second or third guy. And what I would say to them is I would find ways to get their attention. And email is probably a little too much because they're, you know, when I look at email even now, it's like stress because I have so much of it. But Twitter is really easy. Twitter's, again, a really great place for you to be able to just engage with anyone really simply, like really simple. They might post something about like, you know, his name's Nate. Nate Jones. Yeah, I think it's Nate Jones. It's actually a different Nate Jones. But anyway, I just, Nate Williams is his name. So I just tweeted at Nate. I was like, hey, like I don't even remember what I said, but I said something. I was like, would love to catch up next time I'm in SF. This guy is literally now an entrepreneur in residence at one of the prolific VC firms, and like I can call him anytime I want, right? And like, you know, that's what that turned into at 5 years from now. But you know, you shouldn't be shy, I think, to use Twitter. I think Twitter is a very powerful place.
Yeah. And you also get better. The more of these messages you do. Before I even met Ty, funny enough, like we were doing the same exact thing with Archer Rubin and I, breaking in. Because at some point, it's not even an option. Like you just realize that applying online doesn't work for people who even have experience.
Yeah.
So you need to start relying on relationships, and you also got to use the tools that you have to your advantage. You can go on Twitter and find people's bios who work at companies in your area.
Yep.
People say location. On Twitter, you can sort people based on location. So if you live in Cleveland, Ohio, at first you might think, well, there's not a big tech scene in Cleveland, Ohio.
Not true.
But there's still a tech scene,
Yep.
right? And that just means that there's less people competing for those jobs.
Yep.
And less people hitting them up.
Yep.
So all you got to do is just think creatively, start reaching out to people, and start iterating your messages and your approach based on based on how people respond to you.
Yep.
Let's see.
That's a good one.
Yeah, take it.
Okay. From Jake, the question is, what if you're unable to move, looking for a remote position? Does everything work the same way given that condition? Jake, I think, again, I'm going to go back to what I said before in regards to, you know, Twitter. I think you definitely need to be, I think you need to be a little open to, you know, using Twitter. Like you need to become a savant at Twitter. You need to become a savant at follow-up. You know, that's one thing that like Ruben always used to stress. You know, if you might meet someone on Twitter. You know, we call it like, you know, e-meet. You might meet with someone. You might get engaged in a topic or whatever, and you might fail to follow up. You know, if they give you their email or whatever, or if they say, hey, like the next time you're in SF, like let's get lunch. Like maybe you build up so many of those that like it's worth a trip, and like you just have a trip, right? Without moving, without doing what I did, right? So then you just come for a week and you have these meetings, you get to know people, you build relationships, you go back home, and then maybe that turns into a remote position for you, right? Like you say, hey, listen, this is my situation. Like I love the work that you're doing. There's definitely ways. This is one thing about life is that, I don't know, I think there's two types of people in the world. There's people that believe in statistics, right? And there's people who believe in calculus. I believe in calculus. Calculus is, you know, the answer is X, and you can get to X a billion different ways, right? And I think this is calculus. It's not, you know, not everyone's me and not everyone's you. So, you know, you should definitely do what you feel like you're the best in the world at. So
yeah,
that's probably the best answer, because it's true. You know, when you mention about looking at them as they're human and just trying to flow in a conversation and not being like a robot. I'm going on an interview and I have to say this and I have to say that. I agree totally. However, that doesn't work for everybody being that social. I'm an extrovert. You're probably an extrovert also. But if you're not an extrovert, trying to set up a lunch date and go in there and sit and not knowing what to say, unlike coding, if they get stuck, they can rely on somebody. They can't say, hey, Ty, I'm in the middle of this lunch. What can I say? What should I say? That's the bad part about it. So it's not easy for everybody just to be so sociable and engaged. Oh, you play ball? Yeah, let's go shoot some hoops. It's not that easy for everybody. So you got to think about how that person that's not an extra, how they gonna tackle that. That's their challenge right there.
Yeah, there's a question from. So if you haven't listened to the podcast, definitely listen to it. Antoine said, "I listened to your story on the podcast last night. There was a brief discussion about D1. Are you still with D1?"
Yes, I actually just proposed to her in February.
Ah, man, good job.
So, yeah.
Nice. And what was it like? Because I think a lot of people underestimate the power of like communicating to your family about your goals and where you want to go, and making sure that they're in the loop. Like as you're navigating through this career transition, in your head, you can visualize, you can like see what you're about to do, but then you also have your mom, your dad, you might have a cousin who you're close with, your wife. How do you communicate to them? How did you communicate to her the vision and get her on board to buy into it?
Showing is always better than telling. I'm gonna preface it like that and then go into it. You can talk and you can definitely, it's very important to like paint the picture, but at the end of the day, you have to show. And like my girl would hear like, oh, like I want to start a company, and like, okay, cool, right? But like when I was like, hey, like I booked you a flight, we're going to San Francisco, like pack your bags. Like we're going to San Francisco, like it's a trip, like we're gonna have fun, but like I'm doing this because I want to, like, it was like, oh, I'm coming, sure, but it's like, okay, this is cool. And then it was like, hey, like I got an internship, they're paying me this, I'm getting an apartment, can you transfer your job? Like it's all these things, right? And then it was like, whoa, like you got that? Wow, I'm so happy. So like showing is, I definitely spent a lot of time articulating to my fiance now, like what I want, what I want, where I'm going, particularly now, more than ever, and where we're going together. But I think the key word on that is that where we're going together. Don't say where I'm going.
Yeah.
Say where we're going together.
And there's a lot of ups and downs along this journey. I think one of the reasons people want a career transition is you have your dream, right? And a lot of people think that your first company needs to be that dream, when in reality, you should see it as a dream that have multiple phases, and you break down your dream into multiple steps.
Yes.
And Ty, maybe you can talk a little bit about like where you are now.
Yep.
Versus your first job.
Yeah.
Like how is it different?
Right.
And what is it like to get your second job or third job after you already broke into tech?
Yeah. So I would say like a big thing was that like the first when I wanted to break into tech, again, I wanted to join the most ambitious thing I could possibly join. Well, the most ambitious thing that you could possibly join are usually the most riskiest thing that you possibly join. But I also understood, I was like, okay, I'm not 22, but I am in my mid-20s, and I can take a risk. If this thing goes like haywire, it will be disastrous for me, nonetheless. But at least I can come out of that with a bunch of real tech experience, and I can translate that. I can use, there's something that's called career capital. I could use that career capital to buy me what, comfort and ease in the future. But I need to probably struggle for a bit. And I think getting into Omni, it was like I remember the first day I was there, and like the sinks were like messed up. Like, so, when I joined Wells Fargo, everything's really nice. Like everything is clean and nice, and there's janitors and it's nice, right? It's nice. When I joined Omni, like the bathrooms were messed up, the soap was like tipped over, and I was like, yes, you know, like this is what I wanted. I wanted to join a startup where you could come in. Like the thing about it is that I knew that I could come in and have an impact. I knew that my impact would be felt, that I could move that soap cat carton and tilt it back over, and everyone would know that I did it, right? Or I would know at least that I did that. And I could tell someone that I did that. So like, I think that was the big thing for me. And then now, you know, man, like, you know, I definitely used and leveraged my career capital, and grateful enough that I joined a company that I believe honestly may have been maybe, I don't know, I think the idea of Omni will happen one day, but I think it's probably 2-3 years ahead of its time, even to this day. And then having joined a company that I would say that's just like a simplified version of that. And even now being in the Bay Area, like I've definitely been able to, I would say that I learned the early part of like startups, and now I'm at the other side of it, which is like, how do you grow when you have product market fit, when the company is doubling every month? You know, I joined Bird and I was like, it was like sub 200, 300 people. And now it's, you know, 1,000 people. It's only been 9 months.
Yeah. What questions do you have? Let's see. All right. So Nikki has a question.
What can you say was the most challenging part of this whole process to get where you are today? And how's that check at Bird? I like that. Let's talk about money if you want to talk about it. What can you say is the most challenging part of this whole process? Almost losing my girl. Hardest part. I think these guys even know. I mean, it was, there are breaking, like, yeah, I almost lost, and maybe I'll write a book about this, maybe I'll tell a story about this one day, but like, yeah, I almost lost. I didn't move to San Francisco. I remember vividly, I was like, I didn't move here to lose her, right? I moved here to like bring us together, you know, and like to allow us to grow and become better. And that was why I moved here. I didn't move here to like lose her and then like become great, right? And I think you really got to define why you want to do what you want to do. I'm a very purpose-driven person. That was the most challenging. Getting the job, that was definitely challenging. But being in the middle of Omni and knowing that this company didn't have the product market fit that it should have, and it basically almost costing my relationship with my, you know, fiance today, was, you know, she was my girlfriend then, but my fiance now, it was the hardest thing by far. How's the check at Bird? Bird pays very, very well. Bird pays very, very well. You guys should all apply to Bird when you guys are done, or hit me up.
Yeah. Let's see. We have some time for a few more questions.
What advice?
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Lauren.
I'm sorry. What advice would you give somebody that is kind of stuck on like where to move after they finish coding school?
Oh, I love this question. Great question. So the question is just like, what city should I go to? Where should I go? I love this question. And the reason why I love this question is because I'm going to take a step back. So like, I think like 2013, 2012, I think when Facebook went public, I think that was the first, I think that was the last company of its kind, meaning a pure online. I mean, I think there's others that's happened, Twitter and all the rest. I would say probably Twitter. Let's just call it Twitter, 2014. I think that was the last purely digital, humongous internet property type company, I think, that will come out from the Valley for a really long time. If you look at the next great companies are what? Airbnb, Uber, Lyft. I think even what these guys are building, right? Like there is a real person-to-person. I think one day they're going to have beautiful physical spaces that people can go to, hopefully, right? Like I think, you know, these companies what the internet used to be all about was like, you know, routers, HTML, email, and now the internet is like, it's like connected home. It's like, it's, you know, it's Bird. Like Bird is it's like a scooter, like, you know, but it's actually a tech company. It's truly a tech company. Everything that we do is connected to the internet. If there was no internet, if there was no routers, Wi-Fi, there was no apps, if there was no cell phones, Bird doesn't exist. So I'm very excited when people talk about where should I move to? What are the next cities? I personally think the next cities are going to be places like Los Angeles, places like Atlanta, places like DC, places like New York. These places are not as expensive as, this place here is really expensive. San Francisco is really expensive. They pay very well, but it's also expensive. I think that you should really just lean into that and lean in. I always tell myself, I think Steve Jobs has this quote and I always repeat it. He would always he would go to meetings and people would talk about like PCs and he would talk about Apple and he'd be like, you guys are on the back of the wave. I'm on the front of the wave. And it's like, you guys should be on the front of the wave. You guys should be like, okay, what's the next great company coming out of Atlanta? How do I join it now? Right? Or what's the great company coming out of Los Angeles? Bird. Like, we're hiring, right? We would love to have young, like, not young, but like young and experienced, right? Like young, experienced, hungry talent wanting to make an impact. That's the best, right? Versus having to buy the expensive engineer from Google who wants a $1 million payout, wants a bunch of stock, and wants to, probably not work as hard, right? So I think that you guys should really lean into that. Austin, Texas, these are places that like I'm interested in going to be honest with you, right? Like I'm looking at, I want to be on the front of the wave. I don't want to be at the back of the wave. So
yeah. And now I like some people asked about remote jobs. If that's your goal, just on Twitter, you'll see endless amount of people talking about how work is going remote. And a lot of those people work at tech companies that are now moving their workforce to be remote.
Yep.
As Career Karma, I know a few minutes ago, Ty's like, maybe Career Karma, when we get as big as Airbnb, we'll have beautiful offices. That's actually not our goal. Our goal is we know that talent is everywhere. Why would we limit our potential by just having a headquarters in San Francisco and then competing with Google or Facebook for talent for a limited supply when there is just so much outside of the city? And to all of you who are looking for your next job, you got to just realize, just find people online who are tweeting about it. Go to meetup.com, and I can guarantee you can find a remote jobs group on meetup.com. And then just, and literally just go down the list. And I'm not sure how many people knew about this, but you can DM people. You can directly message people on Meetup. And so join a bunch of groups for remote jobs, message every single person in those groups and just say, hey, I'm an engineer. I know JavaScript. I have a portfolio. Wanted to find out if your company is hiring. And you'll have thousands of people you can hit up until one of them says yeah and they give you a job. So everything is possible. If that's your goal, truly just go and get it.
Can I ask a question, Ty? Two questions. What is your job functionality like? It's Omni, right? Or Bird? And are you working on any personal projects?
Yeah. So right now, I basically kind of lead and run operations right now in Northern California for Bird. So I interact with every single team at the company, from engineering to product to marketing to everything. Most recently, we just launched SF monthly rentals. So you can now basically pay $24.99 a month to have access to a Bird, unlimited rides. It's huge. It's a big thing here in San Francisco. When you guys have ever visited, most of San Francisco is like, honestly, for places that you want to go work to and fro, the gym, things like that. It's probably less than 3-4 miles. So we're very excited about that. And personal project for me, I think
before you answer the personal project, so are you doing any coding? Like, I mean, you mentioned.
Yeah, it's a great question. Great question. So I would say, like, for me and my role, and also the size company we're at right now, if I have to code, that's a failure in the company. Not because I don't know how to like get into SQL or run a query to pull data or things like that. It's just they're really talented, and this actually parlays into the personal project thing. I think one thing when you join companies is that you're always doing, like a company at Omni, I was doing a lot. I was pulling data. I was doing all these things. I was creating dashboards and right. And when you get to a company like this, it's called, like, you start to focus and hone in on like your 10x thing. And for me, it's like running an operation, running the business, being at the forefront of those things, and directing and managing and helping people grow within my team and org. So there's some really talented people data-wise at Bird, incredibly talented people that can do all these things. So for me, when it comes to personal projects, because I'm so focused on trying to become, the 10x version of myself, I don't have a lot of time to work on personal projects. If I had time for personal projects, I wouldn't be at Bird. I would be working on a personal project.
So I guess what I was really trying to get at was somebody coming in like us coming in on an entry level. What would our job functionality be like? Would we be put into a position where we're looking to fix some bugs or some defects that's within the program or something, and we're looking to solve that?
Yeah, so this is a great question. I think I've kind of sort of talked about this, but like, there's kind of like, to me, there's like two sets of startups. There's three sets of companies, right? So there's early stage companies where you're going to need to come in and you sort of need to be a savant or be really good at a thing or be kind of sort of a jack of all trades. Then there's like a growth stage company. Bird is this, right? Where we're growing so fast that we need experts. We need like henchmen that can just go out there, ninjas. We need people that are like, I do this. Perfect. You can just be right here. Oh, what do? You could just be right here. Like, that's what we need. And then there's like Google's, Airbnb, lists, where they're just like, they'll take it all. You want to be an intern? Cool. You want to be, right? No, I think it's a pretty good analogy, right? It's like, you want to be an intern? Cool. We got them in the summer. You want to join this summer or next summer? You want to be a senior software engineer? Cool. You can join this team. Or you want to be and like, those companies are great. There's nothing wrong with them, right? But when you join an early stage company, you grow the most. You grow the most, like, as a human, right? Like, talk to Timur about working at Blipper. He did everything, right? Is he like the best in the world at some of those things? Probably not. Like, I'm not the best in the world at writing dashboards and running SQL queries. I am not that great. I'm good, but I'm not that great. I'm much better at running operation, much better at being a manager, much better at, hitting a growth goal. I'm much better at those things. I could probably be world-class at those things versus be world-class at anything else. But I learned that about myself at the early stage. I didn't learn that about myself, joining Bird at this stage.
Yeah. And I think Ty brings up a good point that this is not just your first and last job. The whole career landscape has changed. So it's not like you become an accountant, you get a job at IBM, and you just stay there for 30 years doing the same thing day in and day out. The workspace, it's very fluid in terms of responsibilities, and you can be a software engineer at a small company and doing a bunch of different things and building a bunch of different apps, or you can be a software engineer at a company like Bird, and you're going to be assigned to like a specific team that's building a specific product, and then all of your effort and thoughts are around improving and building features, fixing bugs for a specific part of an app. And the nice thing about learning how to code is you have all those options. The more you learn, the more people you meet, and that's why it's important to reach out to people and meet them. You'll start realizing what is a good fit for you. And if you get into a role and you don't like it, well, you can go get another role. You can get another job. I think most people don't realize that the people who get jobs at Google and Facebook, do you want to guess how long they stay at those companies? What the duration is of their jobs there? How many years they stay there? Anyone want to guess?
I imagine they're cycling through pretty quickly, like only a few years.
So they stay at, if you get a job at Google or Facebook or LinkedIn, you'll probably spend 2 years at that company before you jump onto your next thing. And the reason it's 2 years, Lauren, it's longer than 90 days.
Yeah, that's fine.
Time. But the reason it's 2 years is you get into your first role at Google, right? And the second you update your LinkedIn on Google, that you're working at Google, now all the other startups, all the other companies are hitting you up, right? And you're gonna stay there for 2 years, but in that time, as you're building that experience, you have a skill now that other people want to have, and they're probably willing to challenge you more and pay you more. And so people leave these companies not because they hate their job, they just get better opportunities presented to them. And I just use Google as an experience, as an example, but you could be working at MailChimp in Atlanta, and once you have those 2 years of experience, now you can decide what other company you want to go to, because every time you switch a company, you could potentially get a 20% bump in your salary. If you negotiate properly, you can do it. So it's actually better off for you to switch your job 4 times in 10 years, right? And get a 20% increase every time you switch a job than just stay at a single company for 10 years and get 5% increases year over year. You see? And if you just do it right, if you strategically plan out your career for the next 10 years, you don't need to be an NBA player to be a millionaire. In 10 years, you can be a millionaire just by navigating the tech landscape correctly. And then you'll be way further ahead than people who are just like stuck on a job for 10 years. So.
There's one question that I definitely want to answer before I probably need to go. And it's from Vicky. She says, once I break into tech, I want a career path to higher level management. What would you suggest I have in my background to achieve this? So I think this is actually super personal, because I've always wanted to be in management from the day that I freaking joined the startup. So what I would say is, okay, cool. What I would say is that, like, this is a very, very important question. So I think how I would phrase it and think about it is this, and I would go back to kind of the question that I answered before about like focusing on one thing and being the best in the world at that. So when I was at Omni, I was solely focused on growing our membership. Then slowly but surely, I was in charge of more. Then by the time I left, I was a manager, right? Overseeing like a group of contractors, but then also two or I think like 2 to 3 employees, which was like really fun. What I would say is that like the path to getting to management is really production. Like that path is, if you can actually start to be really good at producing dashboards, I'm just going to use that as an example. If you're really good at producing dashboards over time, and like that's valuable to the company, like over time, they're going to say like, well, like if you can produce like 10 dashboards, I'm just making this really dumb it down. If you can produce 10 dashboards every week, like what if we could like allow you to hire another person that you can potentially manage, and you guys to produce like 50 dashboards a week, right? Well, like, could you do that? Like, yeah. Right. And then it starts to, there's this compounding effect to production that happens when you produce. And I think that's actually sort of kind of what happened with me at Bird. But then also too, I think there's also nuanced things too, as well as like how you communicate. Are you punctual? Are you when you speak in a meeting, is it like very productive, or is it counterproductive? I think people over time really start to get used to your personality and who you are. Then when because when it's time for promotions, or when it's time for you to move to a new team, or when someone says, oh, wow, I need someone that's like X, Y, and Z, they'll think of you, right? And you wouldn't always be in that light in someone's mind. And I think that's kind of what happened to me at Bird. I joined on the global expansion team, right? And I got switched over, promoted into this new role. And I think why my manager did that was he felt anytime when I was expanding into any market, he felt very comfortable with me. I felt very comfortable with him too. When our director of global operations was like, I need someone to like kind of take over like Northern California. I want this person to be a generalist. I want them to be able to do it all. So going back to like specializing, even though I was a specialist, I was able to do a little bit of everything. And now I'm in this role, and it's pretty exciting. And I think I've managed like a team of like 25 to 30 people now. So.
Yeah. I also, Vicky, I want to add to that. I think something that stood out from what Ty said that I completely agree in is trust, right? If you want people that that you work with, you want them to have trust in you, that if there's a problem, right, that you will get it done. And if you can't get it done, you don't wait until the last moment to tell them you can't get it done. You're communicating, right? You're always making sure that the person that you're reporting to, it could be the CEO, it could be the VP, they know that this person is like this top gun. Whenever there's a problem, they can deploy you to that problem and you'll figure it out. And over time, what happens is they start valuing this kind of superpower, knowing that, well, I can rely on this person. And I know that this person, even when they may not be involved in that problem, that person will come up with the best solution possible. And eventually you will get to just earn trust of other executives. And it's only a matter of time before, I think in everyone's career, you get to the point where you actually now have experience, and now it's now on the company to retain you. Because once you have enough experience, they need to figure out like how do they retain you, because you've been such a huge contributor to the team, and they don't want to lose you. So the only option they have is to promote you to the leadership role. Otherwise, you can go work for a different company, and they'll happily take you with your experience and put you in charge of a department.
Yeah.
So it's just a matter of just becoming really good, finding that thing that you're really good at and building on it, doubling down, tripling down until you become the best in the world. And once you're at that point, there's going to be people lined up out of the door to hire you.
You want me to parting words?
Yeah, some parting words. I think, Ty, do you want to just talk about kind of your advice for people in Career Karma? A lot of people are just starting out their career transitions.
Yeah.
What advice do you have for them?
Yeah. So like, just my parting words to you guys, and I'm happy to follow up to as well, via email or whatever, if you guys want to come to chat.
What's your Twitter? But can you type your Twitter in here?
I'll put my Twitter for everyone. So I'm just at.
And if you enjoyed this call, tag Ty in your post. Tag Career Karma, tag Ty, and then hit up Ty online. And this is your
Twitter is like text.
Yeah.
Twitter is like text.
Way of just
FYI.
Starting out, building your connections.
Cool. So like my parting words to you guys is that like honestly like this stuff is not it. I would say this stuff is very hard. Let's just call it what it is. This stuff, like what you guys are doing is like, honestly, if you're already in Career Karma, if you're ready in the boot camp, or if you're getting ready to join a boot camp, that like the hardest part, to be honest, is behind you. The next part of like where you're at is really just a mental switch of this, like it's just a decision. Because it's like, I always say this when I work out, it's like, if you're on the ground, you're about to do push-ups, and like you're not doing push-ups, you haven't made a decision to do push-ups yet. Right? But once you start doing push-ups, it's like, I have made a decision to do this. I'm going to do it. Right? So like, you guys are already on the ground, right? The next step is truly like, okay, I'm here. I'm going to go all the way through and, send that email. I'm going to follow up. I'm going to get my Twitter account, and I'm going to make it as professional as I possibly can be. And maybe I'm not an extrovert, but I'm going to try to talk to people. I'm going to do it on LinkedIn. Find your method. Whatever way that works best for you, find it. I think right now it's just a decision that like I want to join a company and I want to work in tech. Like you guys would like make that. Once you commit to that decision, don't waver, right? Because you guys are already putting in all the work. Like I know it's different time zones. You guys are on a call with me. Like you guys are on the ground in motion to do a push-up. Make the decision to do the push-up, right? And like that's really kind of my parting words to you guys.
Yeah, and one last thing that I'll add to that is just trust your struggle. And what I mean by that is you're always going to be facing a challenge that's going to push you outside your comfort zone. And honestly, on this journey, you're never going to get to a point where you're just happy and you feel like you've accomplished it all. Like Ty, I'm just curious, like now that you are at Bird, do you think your life gets easier in terms of things that you're asked to do or things that you do on a daily basis?
It's like 100% more harder. It's 100% more visible. So if I mess up, it's like the stakes are so much higher. right? Like at Omni, I was mess up, and sure, it felt like but like if I mess up at Bird, it's like someone could get hurt probably, you know, like I could lose my job, right? Like there's a lot of different things that could happen. Like, I mean, I'm on emails with our senior vice president. It's just, the stakes are so much more higher. So I'm glad I'm prepared for this moment. But going back to what I said before, like I've made a decision that I'm going to, you know, be the 10X version of myself. And like the only way to do that is to have a 10X mindset of like, I'm going to push through. I think I have 753 emails that I need to go through. And it's just like, I don't know how I'm going to get through that.
And just embrace where you are now. Embrace this challenge because it's going to get more harder. It's going to get difficult, but you're also going to get better at problem solving. You're going to get better at being outside your comfort zone, meeting people. And this is what makes this journey fun. And don't forget to just work together with other folks. It was way more fun for me to break into tech when I had Arthur and Ruben, and you all have each other now. So let's break in. Great seeing you all. Reach out to Ty on Twitter, Tech Career Karma, and let's break in, everyone. Let's give Ty a round of applause. Feel free to unmute yourself.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Hey, Ty, I know you already said your closing words, but are you truly out of time? Because I had some questions I didn't get to.
Mitchell had a question.
Yeah, go ahead, Mitchell.
Yeah, if that's okay. I have a couple if you have the time.
Yeah, we have the time.
Okay, so I guess I'll just go in order. You mentioned in that 10-week period, you were just going through jobs and you were applying everywhere and getting rejected. You said that you did have an offer, but I think you said you turned it down.
Is this? I had not. I'm sorry.
Back in that 2014 period, or it's like that 10-month period when you're just looking.
Yeah. So. Oh yeah. You mean the job offer from Twitter?
I don't remember which one it was, but you said I think you might have turned one down.
Yeah. No. Like the Twitter thing. I'm glad didn't work out. Like it was a job. Like Adam was being really nice, but I'm glad I still have him I still had that relationship. But like, you know, Twitter wasn't a place to go join in 2014 for me. Mm-hmm. And, you know, it's not really what I wanted. I didn't want to go to a big company. I wanted to go to a small company. I did, to be honest. I wanted to go to an early stage company where I could have impact. That's what I was yearning for, was a place where I could, going back to the soap analogy, like, you know, I could like tip the soap jar over and be like, I did that. I wanted to do that.
Right. And then so with that journey, you know, how did you kind of stay positive with getting rejected?
My fiance, she makes me forget about a lot. 1, 2, my faith, you know, hanging around my friends. And honestly, like I built my community for myself, you know, going back to, I think I mentioned like, you know, try to surround yourself with, you know, folks who are like your counterpart. You know, truly, I would wake up in the morning at 5 a.m. and work out with this guy. It's no exaggeration. It was like, where you at? Like, and like, that was my thing. And we would talk about everything. And that was healthy for me, you know? Me and Ruben would do these long drives together, you know, to and from Walnut Creek. We would go on some hikes and stuff like that. Like
Walnut Creek boy.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
Talk about, before you joined, I told him that there was a point before you got your job at Omni. You were applying.
Omni first.
Omni is a startup. It's like a startup here, but before Ty got his job, he was applying for, I think you were applying for a product role, a sales role, and a growth role.
Yeah.
Right? And I think there was a week when you applied for different companies and you had like 4 on-sites and you got rejected.
Yes.
And you asked for feedback and you were sitting on our couch.
I was pretty upset at this.
And that was, I think that was the lowest. That probably was one of the lowest points in your job search. Can you talk about that point? What did you learn from it? And how did you bounce back?
So one of the things I realized was that like, I started realizing that like I could actually start to like, I could, you know, in baseball now, I could get on base, but I couldn't score. And I was wondering, I was getting frustrated at that. And what I realized was that I was putting myself in situations where in situations that weren't the best for me. And I need to put myself in situations that are like perfect for me. That was 1. 2, you know, like you're gonna get rejected, but you're not gonna learn anything about the rejection if you don't, one, ask for feedback. Really ask the person, like, hey, do you mind sharing some feedback on why you guys made the decision? And also try to get a decision from them. Sometimes, like, there were some people apply and you sit down, you talk, and nothing happens, crickets. That's the worst, right? If they don't even respond to tell you that you didn't get it, or, you know, obviously if you got it, you get it. But, like, if you didn't get it, like, you want to hear why you didn't get it. And in this feedback, it was clear that, like, one, I was not well overqualified for the position, but, like, I spoke about the business and the dreams and the goals, but I wasn't talking about, like, the actual, like, role, right? And that, like, put them off, you know, and they were like, oh, like, he's great, like, he's awesome, but, like, is he going to be good for that? Like, I don't think he's going to be good for that. So I learned a lot about myself that, like, wow, like, you know, I can sell a dream, but I should be able to talk about what we're going to do every single day for that dream.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I was in a lot of pain that night. It was one of the worst nights of my life.
Yeah, and it's going to happen because at some point I think that was the point where it was your lowest, but then you got a job at Omni like a month later.
It was literally a month later.
So, like, just even your worst moments, that don't really mean anything. It's just part of the journey. And then you never know which company is going to call you on site and give you an offer. And that could easily change within a week or two.
Yep.
So at any point in the job search, you're like 2 weeks away. Once you start applying for companies and reaching out to people, you're only 2 weeks away from getting an acceptance. So keep trying and keep hustling. Thank you so much, everyone.
I got one last thing.
All right, yeah, go ahead, Mitchell.
Kind of related to what you were just talking about. It's like, you know, talking about the dreams, and also kind of relating to the other question that I had was kind of like, how did you sell yourself, you know, in those interviews? Like, if they ask, why should we specifically hire you?
I think that there's many different ways to tackle that. One, you can sit down and say, what do I want to be, like, at these companies? I think one thing that I still do to this day, and I implore you guys to do this exercise, is go to any company that you think about, go to any company that you know, and go to their careers site and just look at the jobs and look at the roles and look at the responsibilities and the requirements. The responsibilities, and start to say, is this something I want to do, like 9 to 5 or 9 to 6 or 9 to 9? You know, like, do I really want to be doing those things, right? And that actually helped me a lot. Like, and it's funny because, like, when I look at any new company, I just go straight to their jobs page. I don't even look at the company. Like, tell me what it's about, and I just go straight to their jobs page, because that's actually the thing that the company is directionally trying to go after or do. And that's what they're trying to hire for, and that's the type of people they want. So it helped me create my narrative when I would talk to people. So, you know, I think then I would just say, like, hey, like, you know, I'm really interested in, like, business development, sales, and, like, operations. You know, obviously I had product experience, but, like, I would always say that, like, you know, like, I used to work on product, and I want to be, you know, I would talk about those things. I would say it that way. For you guys, I think there's all software engineers.
Mostly technical
folks. Like, whatever technical skill that you guys are building right now, that's what you want to lean into, particularly because you guys are going to feel most confident about that. You've been studying, you're going to these different boot camps, you've been practicing, you've been honing that craft, that skill. You want to lean into that. You go into a meeting, you want to say, hey, like, you know, I'm really into HTML. I'm really into, you know, JavaScript. And then talk about, I think one thing with technical folks that I even sometimes gripe with is you guys lean into these things, but you don't actually talk about the impact that it could have on the business. I think that's something that you guys should also start to think about, is like, cool, like, I'm really this person, but the reason why I love doing this, like, I would always you can transition it to saying, like, I really love this thing because this is what it can do for the companies or the company.
Yeah.
That's all. Don't worry, I don't have anything more for you.
No, any last questions from anyone else? All right, everyone. Well, thank you so much. Thanks again, Ty, for coming in.
Appreciate it.
If you haven't yet, check out his podcast. He drops a lot of wisdom, a lot of strategies. Ty's from Maryland, right? From
Maryland, DC, Maryland, Virginia.
That's me, man. That's me.
About his,
I'm right in there.
Nice. He talks about his upbringing, like what led up to him wanting to be in tech. So you can learn all about Ty on the podcast, and take him up on it. Take him up on it and reach out to him. All right. Have a good night, everyone. Let's break in.
Hey, night.
You guys.
Thanks, Ty.
Cheers, folks.
Bye. Have a
Good
great
night,
night.
everyone.
Good night.
Idea. Good night, Nicole, Vicky. Good question tonight. Good night, Michael, Mitchell. Bye, Lauren.
Good night. Bye, y'all.
Night, y'all.